Can you hear me? Yeah, I think I can hear me. All right, welcome after the break. Now we have Piotr Siejczuk, the Adobe Commerce Practice Lead at Accenture, with the presentation, Does Application and Infrastructure Performance Still Matter in 2023?
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So just to start with some basics, why I picked this topic. Across the years, I've been talking about quite a few different things, some innovative ideas, solutions, but then time flies, and what I notice is that some basics are actually not covered correctly in a lot of places, in a lot of, well, sometimes even on the projects that I'm running, supporting, so I need to keep an eye on those things. But also when we are doing some reviews of projects taken over from different agencies, different software houses, right? So that's why I'm not talking today about headless, about microservices, about AI, this kind of things, not even about app builder, API mesh, and those things. And I will tell you why in just a sec. So those are the basics. And the question is, does it still matter in 2023, application and infrastructure performance? Yes. And I can go home. Well, of course not. But to follow up, I will say a few more words in just a moment. Few words about myself. I'm working at Accenture as a senior manager. I'm a technical person. I've been a Magento developer myself. Right now, a few years at Accenture, I'm leading the team of Adobe implementations out of Poland, in Warsaw especially. But we work globally, so actually I basically do not support any projects, any clients from Poland. It's more global, different places across the globe. One of my colleagues told me that I should update the slide because it's not valid, and it's true. Beside the business practitioner certificate, I actually have two more: the front-end expert and an SME in that field. But I didn't put it there. It's something that I recently got. Anyway, you have my Twitter and LinkedIn handlers. So if anyone would like to get in touch later on, feel free to do that. So I like this quote. I would like to show you a few things, and I hope you will learn and you will get the best out of it, and you will start to implement those things yourself in your projects, in your companies, in your agencies. And it will be a positive thing for everyone, for you, for your teams, and for the client and users as well. So this is the agenda. I would like to talk a few things about APM tools, why we should use it. Later on, some real-life use cases from projects I've been supporting, from some, let's say, activities I've been running and supporting, one of which was with Adobe team themselves. Then some details about one of the tools. I will talk a few more words about New Relic, and that's going to be about deployment markers, service maps, and some dashboards, which you can set up using that tool, and some lessons learned and some tips, tricks that you should try to look at when you're working on your projects. I have a slot for Q&A session, but I think we'll not have enough time for that. So if anyone would like to speak, ask questions, feel free to do that after the presentation. So what's APM and why you should use it? It's not covering everything. This is application performance monitoring. Basically, it's skipping the front-end part. But, well, after one presentation that was held here by Willem, probably all of you know that Huva is one of the best things to use for front-end, and it's going to cover most of the front-end performance things and Core Web Vitals scoring and so on, right? Although it won't work correctly if you have the basics set up wrong and the performance of your applications on the main part of the whole solution is not working correctly, right? So that's why you should use APM. It's application performance monitoring. It allows in even not reactive but more proactive way detect problems, anomalies, some things and errors, critical errors of your application, which basically sometimes are not reported by any technical team or even the end users, right? Some things are not easily noticeable. So those are some additional elements why, and I basically mentioned most of those things already. Basically, knowledge is the key to success, right? If you have the knowledge about problems, you can decide you would like to do something about it or not, right? But without that knowledge, you're blind. So you need to be aware of some potential problems, and it's up to you to decide, and together with the business, if you want to do something about it or not, right? Sometimes it may be too costly to cover some things, or maybe they should be put in a backlog of your project work. On the next slide, I actually have, probably some of you may know those guys, Ivan and Max. Like, why I actually have those quotes, those, let's say, screenshots on the slide is that I got questions from my clients, the clients that we are supporting, why, because this one is about New Relic, and clients are asking me, why New Relic, why not something else? I was like, well, of course there are different tools, but especially with New Relic and across the years and the experience we have, this is the best tool in terms of Magento support, Adobe Commerce support, and it shows the best level of details that you can get out of the APM type of tools. There are different ones, right? I'm not a New Relic salesperson or anything like that. It's just my experience, and those, let's say, examples are additional elements showing that this is truly the case, that New Relic is the best in-class tool for those kind of things, right? Okay, so those are some facts about New Relic. I'll probably skip it. We don't have that much time. Some real-life use cases. So probably something which will be more interesting. So I don't know how many of you used New Relic? No? Okay. Some of you know, which is a good thing. I hope you will get something interesting out of my presentation and some further slides. But again, I've seen problems popping up all over the places, different projects. In some of them, New Relic was there. The agencies, software houses were saying that they do use this tool. And I was like, well, if you do use it, then I don't know, like someone has to be blind not to see things. So, okay, this is the first use case, right? This is from a project that I've been supporting. It was a B2B type of a project. And this one is about login in action, transaction, which you can see, the customer account login post, right? And you can see this part of the graph and also this one and the greenish looking one. All of those are here, right? Those are external API calls, a business requirement, B2B type of a project. Without that, customer won't be able to basically have the up-to-date information of products, about prices. So actually, what's on this table, what it's shown, it's that 80% of the transaction to log in was actually about 3 API calls that took 6.5 seconds. Magento was taking 20%, the rest 20%, out of which some was basically used to process the data coming out from those APIs, right? So what it actually shows is that, and we pointed out this to the client, that they have to work on their internal systems to improve the performance of the master data source for e-commerce, right? Put some caching layer or different approach. Otherwise, this will be, let's say, not optimal experience for the end users when they're logging in. Okay, the next one. The next one is, okay, again, similar case. API call, you see, this part, this itself is about API call. Again, API call to a customer system, internal client system, that was not performing well enough, right? 4.7 seconds, again, similar pattern, 80% here or 79, 21 here. Most of the time taken by external system. Client will tell you, like, fix this. Well, there's not much you can fix on Magento, Adobe Commerce side, if the data and the call takes that much time, right? Of course, there are ways, but they have to be agreed with the client, and it would mean that potentially the data may not be fully up to date. So by introducing some caching layers. This one is, okay. This one is about something which is trendy nowadays. It's about personalization of content. And there's a solution for that. It's called, initially it was called Magento Banner module. Later it was renamed to Dynamic Blocks. And this one is exactly about that. This transaction is about this, right? Banner Ajax load. So it's loading asynchronously some data, personalized data, customer segment specific data. But, there's but. Well, in this one there was a small API call, external one, but it doesn't really matter much. If you use this feature from Adobe Commerce, you need to be aware that you may notice on a high load sites, you will probably notice some performance degradations and performance issues. And it's actually something which was pointed out by Magento support team. There's the link here. This presentation, there's a link to it. You can check it later on. All those links you'll be able to check and click yourself if you're interested. This one, question: how many of you know what opcache is? Cool. I'm really glad to see that. And how many of you changed configuration of opcache? Okay. And by any chance, okay, this maybe, it's not visible here, but this green thing, it's about Composer Autoload include files. It comes with experience, right? But it simply means that there's something wrong with the setup, right? The opcache configuration was totally not correct. The standard opcache component is having, let's say, not optimal configuration versus Magento, right? Adobe Commerce. By default, I think it's allowing to, I will use the word boost, but that's not the flag which is named, but the other word is that I will not say it, I will break my tongue trying to say that. So basically, the default flag is set on the level of 10,000, and Magento has around 65,000 and probably more with the newest 2.4.6. And if you add B2B package, it's probably even more files than that, right? So what it means that opcache can cache up to 10,000 PHP files. If your application has more, then, well, this will happen. So a small tweak in the configuration, and this one was under heavy load, 1 hour run of load test. I think it was like 5,000 or 10,000 virtual users through this 1 hour. I mean, the application was still performing quite well, overall speaking, because overall average response was on the level of 310 milliseconds. But by simply changing that boosting files of opcache, it went down to 228 milliseconds, so in an overall improvement of 26%, right? A single change made such impact, right? A basic thing that actually I've seen in a lot of places. So, you know, please check this once you are back home. Maybe you have it set up correctly. Maybe you don't. If you don't, you know, check it on non-production instance of your project, of your web shop, and change it. A free consulting from me. Okay, so some other elements of APM tools. This is a dashboard showing. Let's say we have this is an example project divided into three regions: North America, Europe, and Asia. And you can set up some nice, not only technical dashboards. This one is showing the availability of the solution of the, let's say, the whole platform of your web shop, the checkout throughput, error rate of the checkout, response times of the checkout. So not only technical things, but also your business teams might be interested to see some of this. And let's say this is more technical, memory footprint, CPU workload. This one was based on Docker setup, so some Docker utilization. Really cool thing, and especially if things are not working correctly, you will see some weird spikes on such charts. Again, this one is even more business specific. It's about process payments, a success factor, number of. Well, this is an example of web shop selling pizzas. Again, like if you see like this one, for example, was processing almost 90% of orders correctly, but there were also some errors, and then the errors are shown here, failed orders. So you should definitely take a look at details of this case to check what could be going wrong there. Again, some details. This is about Fastly, some cached, uncached pages, number of hits, and so on. For technical people, really valid thing to check. Of course, it needs time. It needs time to be able to analyze it, but that time is actually worth that time, because the end experience is gonna be positive for your clients. Deployment markers. This is again something that the previous example about Opcache. It was easily, let's say, I could easily get this data because I used the deployment marker, and it showed me those deviations between before and after, right? So it's really valid to have those deployment markers. It's easy to set up. It's basically a single API call, so you can incorporate that one into your CI/CD pipeline, and you'll easily benefit out of it. I will skip service maps. This is an example of deployment markers divided into transactions. Top 10 are shown here. I'll have to speed up a bit because the time is running out. Again, this is a new case from the last few days, although, well, it is basically related to the 2.4.6 release, P1 release, and something that happened in both cases, that the overall performance dropped down. Actually, it was initially reported on GitHub. You have the link here. Later on, reported by Alexander Luzin, one of my, let's say, community colleagues. And basically, later on, I shared that across my social channels to spread the word. So, in short, this was before the upgrade to 2.4.6. This was after. There's something wrong here, right? No new features or limited number. All those things are starting to jump, weird spikes, right? So yeah, this was analyzed, that there's a problem with deployment config read, some cache issues. The fix is here. There's a composer patch here. So if you're running 2.4.6, check this patch especially. It's gonna be part of core in 2.4.7. This is the situation here. Like, now this one was after the upgrade. Here, the patch got installed, and you can easily see how the overall response times drop down, right? So if you're running the 2.4.6 or P1, definitely check the patch. One of the last things, So I was asked once with my team to run a performance benchmark of Adobe Commerce. We did it. Of course, this is with vanilla storefront, not even like some custom one, no Hoover, no headless, just vanilla Luma theme, right? With some standard configurations that could be done from the back office. And this one was on 2.4.3. So what we basically end up with, 60,000 orders per hour. That basically gives around 1,000 orders per minute. A number of page views and so on. This one was for the B2C scenario. For B2B, the numbers are lower than, not so impressive, I would say, but different things were tested there. In B2B, we were requested to check how the system is going to act with 750 order items in the cart. And the point was that with such numbers, it should handle 500 orders per hour. It handled, without any problems, almost 600, right? So this is the standard setup of the application, right? With all, let's say, additional customizations, with changes to front-end, back-end integrations, those numbers probably will be different, right? But the standard application can handle enterprise-level clients, and this is what was requested to be checked by Accenture in terms of Adobe, right? And one extra thing, with 2.4.5 and 6, those numbers were improved 4 times. There are some public white papers. I think they are not shared for any reason or marketed good enough, but from 60,000 orders, almost 4 times. It went to 205K orders per hour. So almost 4 times more, right? But of course, you need to remember about simple things, right? And I will skip a few things, but this one, basics, right? If this will break, your whole thing will break, right? So things to do. Optimization is more important than scalability. If optimization is not done correctly, it doesn't matter how many CPUs extra, memory extra you will add. If this one is going to be not correct, this one doesn't matter at all. If you're a developer and you're fetching a collection of data, never, ever do this, or I will find you. So to address this, automate things as much as possible, because if you automate things, tests, some critical business path checks, this will show you problems with performance of your application, right? Easily. Load in the loop problems phenomena. Once already mentioned, Ivan Czepurny on one of the sites had a YouTube series of those kind of problems. And they are existing, even in the core. They are existing in code developed by the developers. Not intentionally. Sometimes it's just a lack of experience, and maybe they are just too junior at some point, right? This thing, how many of you know what MySQL Explain is? Awesome. You know why I'm asking this question? Because I'm asking this question on job interviews. And people don't know, developers don't know, people who should know. And they are saying it's a database, DevOps type of knowledge. No, it's not. This is about application. And to make it easier, the question is if you are seeing a slow running query into a single database, single table, without any joins, how you will see what's wrong with it? I don't know, out of 50 interviews I ran recently, only 5 or something people were able to tell me that use MySQL Explain. It will show you what's the problem, if you use or do not use index or additional elements. Something which may be not so clear, that sometimes hardware is the limit. Network level is the limit. Sometimes you may reach limits on your network layer. Routers cannot handle enough traffic, like data traffic, Redis traffic. And I've seen this. It's on the enterprise level clients, but you also should be monitoring your hardware, let's say infrastructure. I will just skip this, something which I use. It's not part of any coding standards, or I haven't seen it. What's the difference between collection get size and count data collection? In terms of numbers, it will give you the same number, but this one is using data which is coming from collection fetched from the database, and this one is gonna load the whole collection, iterate through it, and count the objects in it. Memory-wise, killer. Have I seen it? Yes, a lot, right? One hint, sometimes this may not give you the right results. If someone is gonna do some more fancy things with where query in your collection, like putting some heavy clause in it, this may give slightly not correct results. So not put it blindly, but check your projects. This is, again, not giving a full picture, but it would point you some files, some places to look for such a thing, not correct usage, right? It will require some additional manual checks, but still, you have it, you can use it. Again, some free consulting. I was talking about slow queries. There's an out-of-the-box thing you can enable from CLI. You don't have to have New Relic. You can use it locally, set up some flags, additional flags. I really encourage you to try this one locally, even with Xdebug, perfect stuff. I think I don't have much time, but yeah, Maciek is like, okay, I should stop. Okay, then I will stop. This is more like interesting facts. And last word, some time ago, basically a few years ago, I created this tool that basically checks some standard configurations. It's available publicly. It will check, and it is in as-is format. It's not perfectly done in terms of coding standards, not at all, but it does what it is supposed to do. It checks some basic configurations of components, and it will point you some directions that things may not be correctly configured. And really, the last thing, if you're updating or using MySQL 8, normal standard version, remember one thing. A query cache flag was removed from it. There's no query cache in pure MySQL 8. It is still there in Percona and MariaDB versions, or at least in MariaDB, because I see someone is noting that in Percona maybe not, but MariaDB is having it for sure. Okay, but MariaDB is having it, and maybe that's the reason why the whole Adobe Cloud runs on MariaDB, or maybe not. But you know, something that is worth to know. And I will finish here because otherwise Maciek will drag me from the stage. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, let me know.